Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to this series, and today in this video I'm going to talk about some of the improvements that I have done on the application, because now it's almost time for me to deploy this internally on my office network. And my plan is to start doing real-time testing with this application so that number of users who will in my organization use it, I will collect some feedback, make improvements, and take this to the next level. So obviously, one important thing missing from my code base was, let me see if I still have that code. Okay, so if you remember from the previous code base, right, we had this thing of my web.php having a test URL where I would fetch all the URLs and poll them, but then it was running on that thread, right? However, one thing which we had done obviously was to keep those things as events, and hence they will never, I'll be very comfortably changing them into queues. So this is what I have done in this particular thing. I have created a console command. I'll show you my command. This is poll URL. Okay, so now I have this thing. This is the query, but first of all, let me go through each of the things that I have done. So I have a command called poll :URL, and I can pass the frequency. So what I will do is I will have three kernel commands. One which we will poll the URLs which needs every minute, polling every minute, twice, after every 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes. This is basically the drop down in our settings page. So I'll show you that setting page as well so that you are clear what I'm talking about. I'll go to my collections settings and see these are the four options, right? So I'll have 4 crons which will run based on these 4 options. So single command with parameters. How does this work? Well, let me show you on my terminal. I have one command where I am doing PHP artisan poll URL frequencies 2. It takes 2 URLs. It will make that thing. And right now these are on job. So you can see this is working. Now if I hit enter and try one more, which is 1, it will poll 1 URL. You can see the job was done, and this will result in details what it needs to capture. So now if I go to my office collection, I can see that FocalWorks was pinged. The average response time is 443 milliseconds. Again, this is on my local network. Don't compare it with the performance of the actual website, because my internet connectivity can be slow, fast, depending on the ISP right now. So this is what is there. Okay, this command will run. What it is doing is, first of all, I'm taking the argument value, which is this argument, and then the frequency. Okay, this command is not required. Let me clean this up. Basically, I have taken this inside a service function. So what I'm doing is I'm getting URLs from this service method when I'm passing the frequency. So let's see what the service method does. Inside my URL check service, right? This is my URL check service. So inside that, I have this method where the query is something like, give me URLs where has collection.settings, name is URL check frequency, and the value is the frequency. Why? Let me show you. So if you remember the collection settings, the table was something like the collection ID is there, the name is there, and the value is there. And what we are interested in is all the URLs. Okay, where now URL has collections and collection has settings, right? So it's I would say first level and then second level thing. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, give me all the URLs where has collection dot settings meeting this condition, right? So what is the condition? I'm getting the query, I'm passing the frequency which I'm getting in this parameter. I can actually type it as string, but okay, where was I? Yeah. So the query where settings.name is URL check frequency, this is hard coded. I know it is fine because right now this is the only settings value that we are interested in. If a URL doesn't have it, we will not poll it. Okay. We will see how we can automate this during the creation of a URL so that a default value can be set. But right now, URL frequency value is the frequency. So when I'm running this command, which is 2, it will look for all the URLs where collection settings has the value 2. So it will figure out that collection 2 has URL check frequency 2. So it will look at the collection, the URLs table where collection ID is 2. And it will find these 2 URLs. And that's why if you see when I had executed 2, it found ID 3 and ID 4, right? ID 4, ID 3. If I go to the database, you can see that's the case. So this is how things are managed over here inside the query. And additionally, I have where the URL needs to be active. So inactive URLs don't need to be pinged. And obviously the URL should not be failing at that moment because we have a separate thing which is clean failing URLs, which pauses the polling for some time, and after a certain amount of time it will change the status, because if it is still failing then we need to send the repeated thing, right? This is something which I have already developed as a feature. So with this, what happens is, let us go inside our command. We get certain URLs, and then rest of the thing is quite simple. Because this is a collection, we do an each, we raise event, check URL. My event is over here, and I know that my listener is check URL listener. In here, everything is happening as it should. The only thing is, because it is should queued, and now my driver is Redis. So what is happening is I have this PHP artisan queue listen. So it will listen for any queued item which it needs to process, and it will do its thing. So the job is raised, it is processing the job from the default queue, and as you can see, it does mention me how much time it took and things like that. So yeah, 410 milliseconds for my last ping. That was the Focalworks website, and if I see in my success as well, right, there is some time for the rest of the functionalities, but 391 milliseconds is for the last ping. All right, so yeah, that basically takes care of my polling function. I do have a dump which I really don't need. I will clean that up later, but the cron needs to be set up right when I set up the application. Now, one more thing which I have done, again, I am going through a lot of features because I want to show you what kind of tweaks I'm making inside the application for it to be production ready, or not even production ready, I mean, so that I can use it properly. So I have this collection. I added this response time. I felt it was very important for me to look at the response time when I'm looking at the URLs. Okay, and additionally, if you remember in some of the URLs where it is failing, right? For example, this, I have the recent failures, right? The 6 items. Similarly, I have a list of success polls as well. So I have my recent failures. So I see that the UI has gone for a toss a little bit. I'll have to check that why this is happening. But I have 2 informations being displayed, which is the recent failures and the recent polls. If I go to my other collection, which I was actually testing out, I can see this is happening. So this is a good thing. I'm able to show important informations, and this resulted in a notification as well. In the detailed view also, I'm showing the average time and stuff like that. How do I get the recent ping details? Well, that was also a very straightforward thing. I have a new API inside my API route, which is URL/URL. It is working through my URL controller view method. So URL is being route model binded. So then I loaded the success relationship, and it's a closure because the success relationship with only load with these selected fields, it will order the list by ID descending, and I'll get only the first 5. So basically this means I will return only the latest 5 entries. Then I do an average of these success entries because this is nothing but a collection. So I get the ability to run an average function on the collection. This is the time field which I'm interested in. So I'm sending the average and I'm sending the success. And if I go to my Visual Studio Code, which page is this? This is URL view 4. So let's go to pages, URLs, view this, and what are we here? So first of all, the average time is being shown, which is fine. This is why I have this over here. Now let's look at, we had the failure block. So this is very similar. I have success. How do I get the success? Well, it's an HTTP call to my new URL. I have 2 state variables and I put my data over here, the average time and this. Okay. Now it looks like I don't need the average time, or maybe I will use that because the latest average time is something different. Okay, there's a problem. I'll have to fix that. This is not the ideal thing because the average time which I'll get over here, right, will be more recent. Whereas the average time which I'm getting from the URL table is a bit different, and I need to decide whether I want these 2 different values. Ideally, they shouldn't be the case. So yeah, I think I'll just get rid of this, which is this, and we are good. We don't want 2 different kind of data. All right. So what next? I'm getting this set success. So obviously, which means I have this success data. I check whether this data is present or not, whether it is not null. And then if the length is more than 0, I basically iterate over it. I'm showing the latest created at because that's when the poll happened and what was the response time. And that basically results in this kind of an UI. Okay. If I run that again, it's 2. So as you can see, it is 2027, right? Now, if I hit refresh, I have this new one where it took 93 milliseconds from my previous 77 milliseconds, right? So this is how it works. And we have one key over here as well. All right. So that's pretty much it. These are some of the tweaks that I'm doing. I'm very close to figuring out a graph library so that I can have that graph which basically shows the time in milliseconds, how much it took for the response, and in some places maybe some of the failures as well, right? So yeah, this is something which will be coming up, but things are in shape and I'm very excited to launch this and running it internally and see how things go. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.